Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Estate Sale Treasure Finds. My name is Josh, and in these episodes I'll be talking about some of my most recent finds, discussing both the valuable items and the interesting items, providing some history, and giving some tips about what I look for when I go to an estate sale. In this video I'll be talking about these antique Russian Tarzan books I found, which are really neat, so I hope you stick through the rest of the video, see what else I found, and learn something along the way. The set of items I'm going to be talking about are these antique, vintage, advertising paperweights. These paperweights fulfill two of the categories of items I sort of look for when I go to an estate sale. They are both advertising pieces and they're heavy. When I say something heavy, when I look for something and you pick something up and it's metal and it's not heavy, that sort of suggests that it's a modern manufactured piece and it isn't really going to be something that has value. So that it fulfills that standard of being something heavy, obviously being a paperweight, and it is advertising. You know, advertising stuff can be worth a lot of money, and it doesn't necessarily need to be signs or automotive stuff. Anything that appeals to specific industries and has some age to it can have some value. I would say this applies to even stuff that might be from the 60s or 70s. So this Pratt Spyler Mufflers paperweight is actually a magnifying glass, and I think this is probably worth anywhere from $20 to $30. I don't think it's that old. It's probably from the 70s or 80s, but it still has that automotive appeal to it, which is good. The J. Burt Ross paperweight is actually for a coal company that was out of Buffalo, New York. As you can see there, it says, "Good coal makes warm friends." There is the way this paperweight is actually works, and a lot of other paperweights from this age is it's actually sort of a button, a metal button that is inside a glass piece, and the button is actually patented 1903. Now that doesn't mean that this is from 1903. I think it probably is from the 1910s or 1920s, because the patent may not apply to this specific button. It's a patent, so it might be referring to when this type of button was patented. So the nice thing about this, it also has the local appeal of Buffalo, New York. So that should appeal to someone in Buffalo who knows the history of J. Burt Ross Company, and maybe even knows where the factory is or where the factory was. So I think that this piece could be worth anywhere from $50 to $100. I think it's pretty neat that it's coal. It's also a very specific industry. Automotive stuff has a wide market. But anything that is very niche or a very specific industry can have a lot of value. A category of items that I often look for are vintage and antique pencils. Pencils actually can have a lot of value because the manufacturing quality of them. There's actually a pencil called the Blackwing 602, which just has a really nice graphite that apparently it writes really well. And 3 or 4 of these pencils can sell for up to $200, which is really amazing. So pencils are something that I always look for, and so I have some really unique advertising and functional pencils I'm going to be talking about. The first one here is by American Pencil Company. I actually haven't found any others like this online. It actually has this ball at the end, and apparently this is for dialing rotary telephones, which is pretty neat that it has that functional purpose. I think it's probably from the 20s or 30s, and I think it could be worth $20 to $30. This pencil here actually has the same function. It has this ball on the end, and it's actually made by Bell System property, so that that is obviously that telephone connection. So it's both an advertising piece and functional, which is pretty neat. This mechanical pencil is actually an advertising, I wouldn't say advertising, but it's actually contemporary use, probably for University of California. I've been told that this pencil is probably from the 20s or 30s, and so at that time that was primarily UC Berkeley and UC Davis that this would have applied to. They didn't have the whole University of California system yet. I suspect that this is probably worth anywhere from $50 to $80. It's hard to say. It's all about finding the right customer who is interested in this piece, and I feel like this is the kind of thing that you might see used on a movie set. It's pretty neat. This set of pencils here is nice just because they are unsharpened. As you can see here, School Days by Empire, number 55. I think these usually go for anywhere to $5 to $8 a piece. I'd hope to get, maybe $30 from the set. It comes with this nice leather case, which is cool. This set of pencils here is colored pencils made by Faber-Castell. As you can see, it comes in this sort of green leather case. This I'm hoping to get $40 to $50 for. And the other clue about this pencil set that something I use for a lot of items is that it is marked Germany. So whenever you see something made in Germany and it looks antique, you want to think about the history of Germany. And if something's marked Germany, it's either going to be from the 90s, after West Germany and East Germany were reunited and the Berlin Wall was taken down, or it's going to be from the 1940s or earlier. So you can usually tell the difference between something from the 90s or something that is antique. And with this green leather and even in the typeface of the fonts, you can tell that this is something that is probably from the 40s or 30s. So that's always a hint that I use whenever I am looking at items at an estate sale. So the last set of items I'm going to be talking about are these antique Russian Tarzan books. These books are from 1930 and are actually the illustrated adaptation of Tarzan, which was published sort of on a daily basis, I believe, or maybe weekly basis in a comic strip style, as you can see there. And it is in Russian, as you can see. The illustrators of these are Rex Maxon and Hal Foster. Hal Foster would become famous for writing and illustrating Prince Valiant, which was another newspaper weekly comic. It's really neat that it has these illustrations. The other thing about these is that they are an Edgar Rice Burroughs authorized product, so it is an official Tarzan product. And the other thing about them, of course, that is really interesting is the Russian history and sort of stories behind Ruski Golos and the translation. The translation does actually change the story slightly to appeal to Russian readers who are reading this. Ruski Golos was Russian Voice Publishing Company, and they were based out of New York. And it's unclear to me whether or not they were communist associated. The Wikipedia, there's a biography on Tarzan that says that they were anti-capitalist, but they weren't communist associated. Something on Wikipedia says that they were communist supported, but the history behind the translation does indicate that the text was adjusted to appeal to Russian readers. Some of the changed stories include there's a Russian character who is changed to be a white Russian who is anti-communist. And then there's another Russian character who apparently through the drawings it is very clear that he is Russian, but they change him to a Polish person, which apparently the Russians hated the Poles, and that appealed to the readers a lot, and it really changed the story. There's even a wedding that they get rid of, and they get rid of Tarzan's background story about his parents being lords, about his father being a lord. They try and make him seem like more common people. So these are really neat. I have not found any others like this. There are some Russian Tarzan books out there, but none that are this illustrated adaptation. I think that they could be worth anywhere from $100 to $200, but it's all about finding the right market for them. And so, yeah, I'm looking for a buyer still. I think these are the kind of thing that belong in a museum. It is a really neat cover too. You see this and it kind of does look like Tarzan. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Estate Sale Treasure Finds. Please subscribe and feel free to comment with any questions that you might have, whether it's about the items I talked about or something that you might have found. I'd be happy to help and give my advice on them. And if there's anything that you'd like to see me talk about, particular categories or items, please let me know. Please tune in next time.